Hey, all you experts out there, this is the Monetize Your Expertise podcast, where we show you how to use your skills to pay the bills. Have you ever wanted to create a business that positions you as the industry leader and go-to expert? Join me every week to hear from amazing leaders and entrepreneurs who have successfully refined their skills in order to become experts and create extremely profitable knowledge businesses. To find all of the links and tools mentioned in this episode, just go to myepodcast.com. I'm your host, Grant Weherley, the online course guy, helping you every week to monetize your expertise. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Monetize Your Expertise podcast. Today I'm talking about a major problem that most entrepreneurs and course creators run into very commonly in their business. I want to talk about that problem, something that I've struggled with as well, and I just recently kind of started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so I wanted to share with you that problem and the solution that I encountered. I kind of stumbled into it actually, and how that's going, and hopefully it's something you can learn from as well. Here's the problem that many business owners, many course creators as well, because it's kind of similar in various aspects. Here's the problem that they run into. So when you get started in business or creating content, most people start it in a pretty simplistic way. Like you start out as a freelancer or a one-on-one consultant, but inevitably you want to grow things, right? You want to scale, you want to start hiring those employees, start serving more clients, grow your audience, etc. Start doing those complicated course launches. Well, here's what happens is that essentially you go from like maybe juggling one ball or spinning one plate in the air to having to juggle 10 balls at once very, very quickly. And that starts to happen exponentially. It goes from 1 to 10 to 100 balls very, very quickly, and you quickly get overwhelmed. And by default, what's going to happen is you try and do that, and most people who are business owners or course creators are pretty type A personalities, so they're like, oh, I can do it, I can juggle, I can learn to juggle more, I can be more productive, I can learn to juggle faster, I'll read up on the latest blog post on how to juggle faster and juggle with better technique. But inevitably what happens is that they end up starting to drop balls. They start to let things slide. Maybe the quality of their work's not as good, and they're not living up to their own expectations. This is pretty common. Has definitely happened to me. It's kind of growing pains of growing a business. And this is also true for course launches, I would say, in particular, because so the model of building and launching courses for your own brand is inherently very complex. Because, for example, you have to understand your topic, you have to be an expert, right? But you also have to understand how to turn that into content. So there's like the skills of actual content creation based on the skills that you already have, right? So that's another layer. And then you have the sort of technology side of things, and then you have the sort of marketing launch side of things. And there's just like all these different categories of balls you have to juggle. It's like now not only you have 10 balls, but you got like 10 blue balls, 10 green balls, 10 orange balls. Things get pretty mixed up pretty quick. What this means is that in many cases, this can mean failure in your course launch or in your business, or maybe you'll start to lose clients. And I think at the end of the day, we all want to do a really great job of the things that we build. We want to build something great, right? And if you start to drop things and things start to slide, I think that probably makes most people unhappy. I know in my own business, when that's happened, it's definitely been the case as well. So in this situation, what most people start to do is they start to hire people, and then they run into this problem where they essentially have to baby these new employees. So they're starting to, get overwhelmed. And so like, okay, cool, I'll hire people and then I'll feel less overwhelmed. But what happens when you hire new people is that you then have to train new people. So now you have all the things you had to do before, as well as training people and correcting their mistakes when they first come on. So now you have more stuff to do and you're less productive than ever. I actually recently spoke with a freelance video editor who was telling me about how he tried many times to start to build out that team, but it was just a headache and he kept giving up because essentially what would happen is you just have more work having to like fix their mistakes than if he had just did it himself. And so he's like, I don't want the headache. I'm just going to, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm going to keep it at that level, which more power to him. That's awesome. If you're not interested in growing your business, then putting down some of those balls, trying to juggle less is definitely a viable option. But for those of you who are interested in growing your business significantly, then here's an alternative about how to do that as opposed to just getting overwhelmed and hiring people ad hoc and then getting even more overwhelmed. So here's the story of how I sort of stumbled into a solution almost by accident. So recently I was in that situation where I was trying to hire in order to, get some things off of my plate. And the way I structured it was something I learned about at a recent business conference I was at was basically offering an apprenticeship, which is basically like a cooler word for an internship that's focused on people who want to learn skills. And it's very learning focused people who are smart and, able to pick up things quickly. So it's also very cost effective as well, because you're like, okay, I'm definitely going to train you. It's a big value proposition of this position, but you also need to learn fast, right? So I figured that was a good way to frame things. So I was like, cool, I'm going to pick up a marketing apprentice and essentially do as much as I can to teach them everything that I've learned through this, so I can start to hand things off to them and help, have them be my like backup juggler of those balls, right? Of all the different marketing balls and course launches and things like that I have to do on a daily basis. And so I was very, very lucky that I had an awesome pool of applicants for it. It was something like 29, I believe. It was pretty good. It was a lot more than I expected, actually. And the applications were really, really good. But what happened was, not only did I get a bunch of great applications for marketing apprentices, but there was also a guy who applied who was essentially like a really, really experienced project manager. And so I was like, I've heard about this thing called project managing. What is that exactly? This seems pretty valuable. I can see how this guy might be able to not only, these other people can take care of the marketing, but what if this guy was the one really helped organize things and dealt with all the stuff that sometimes causes me to feel like I want to tear my hair out? How would that work? So I ended up bringing on both of those people, the best applicant for the marketing apprenticeship, but also this guy, even though he was applying for the marketing apprenticeship, I was like, no, I'm going to bring you on. You're going to be the project manager. And so since then, it's been a really amazing experience, because what would happen before I kind of stumbled into this is that, I would hire new people and I'd get into this weird situation where essentially I was like assigning them things to do on a daily or a weekly basis, and they would like run out of things to do if I was busy, or maybe they'd feel like I was kind of disappearing on them, because I have my own things to do in my own business, right? Like I have my own roles I have to play that are really, really important. And so I'm not there sort of overseeing them. I'm not there managing them, because I'm not a manager, I'm an entrepreneur. And chances are you are as well, right? So what if you had in your business a dedicated person to organizing all of the different things that you've got going on, organizing and color coding all of the different juggling balls and making sure they're in the right order, and which one's which and which one comes at which time, which order they go in, and then also like watches them and make sure that they're all going well. So in case anything gets dropped, it's immediately picked back up. Because that's, I find, the biggest thing, right? Like I think we can all do a pretty good job of the different elements of our business if we have unlimited mental capacity, but inevitably we don't, and so we have to pick and choose the things that we're good at, right? And so I'm gonna guess for you, it's probably not project management. Chances are, if you're listening to this, it's probably not project management as the best use of your time. What's probably the best use of your time is things like strategy, or creating content, or creating partnerships. And essentially that's what this has freed me up to do in my business. And this is what I wanted to share with you, because it's still being ironed out. This is, it's only been in place for a couple months now, but essentially this is what the situation is working towards and turning into, which is basically now I'm able to focus on those things like building partnerships, building content, learning and building new systems in my business, hiring new people, and basically all of those really, really high value things that as a business owner you should be doing. It's that quote of how you should free yourself up to work on your business and not just for or in your business, right? Like you shouldn't be your own employee. And I know that's something that is psychologically a bit difficult to to deal with, right? Especially if you've ever been a freelancer or consultant in the past. It's almost like a weird thing where you feel like you're not working because you're not doing the actual work that your business is doing. You're actually working on your business. It's very sort of meta and complicated in a psychological sense. But it's really cool though. I've gotten to this point now where instead of sitting there and being like, okay, I've got these different people and they've got to have a certain number of hours of work. Let me figure out like the things that I need to do and like who should be doing what and like how that should be organized and how I can assign that to everybody so they have the right number of things to do. And I would just like sit there and feel like beating my head against the wall. And so now, instead of that horrible approach, what I do now is I record very simple videos of me being like, hey, here's some stuff that we got to do. Let me walk you through it in a screen recording and talk about the things we need to build and the kinds of things we need to start working on. Obviously, I'm a lot more specific with that than this generic example, but I record a simple video, I send it to my project manager, and he assigns it to the right people on the team and basically makes sure it gets done and reports back that, hey, cool, here, it's moving forward. We have this one question, but it's pretty much done. We just have to answer this one question first. I'm like, awesome, good stuff. Now, in the meantime, I've been building other things that are the better use of my time. So I wanted to bring this up in this episode because I know a lot of business owners who end up fulfilling this role of project manager, but I'm pretty sure for most people, it's not really what they want to be doing with their time, and it's not something they're necessarily good at. But the term itself, I think, is sort of a more corporate term that wasn't something I was overly familiar with because I've never really been in corporate world. And so it's like anything that comes from that world, I kind of it has a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm like, but it's corporate. I don't want that. It's not for this kind of small business type deal, right? But in this case, I would say this works really, really well. And actually, my project manager that I brought on has a ton of corporate experience, and it actually translates surprisingly well. So the main point I wanted you to take away from today is that I hope this is something that it's put on your radar that you don't have to serve that role in your business. And the best way to scale and grow your business is to not serve that role. Because as an entrepreneur, as the business owner, as the person behind that personal brand, if you're a course creator, you should be working at the highest level of your business. You shouldn't be stuck on the lower levels because then you're not freed up mentally or in terms of your energy in order to work on those high value things. So hopefully that seed is adequately planted, and especially before you try and launch your next big course, try and find somebody like this to fulfill this role. And that way you'll be able to hopefully hold on to your sanity. And also one sort of important note is that in many cases, there's probably somebody in your current organization who could be promoted to this role. Somebody they came in one role, but they have a knack for overseeing various projects and keeping things on track. Hey, promote them. Have them be your project manager. And then as they rise, you can rise above what they're taking over from you. And there's also one important alternative as well to hiring your own in-house project manager. And this is related to something I've discussed in a previous podcast episode about agencies. For example, my company, Monetize Your Expertise, actually works with a few select clients at a time to build and launch courses, and we help play that role for clients. We organize things, we keep things on track. There's a huge element of that organizing course launch timelines that a lot of clients struggle with, and that's on top of the strategy and execution that clients come to us for our expertise as well. So, anyways, if you are interested in maybe not hiring a project manager, but getting some help with that kind of role, I'd encourage you to go to myepodcast.com and hit that contact button if you're interested in talking about it. And I'd be happy to see if we can help. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I got to finish this up and hop on a plane in a few hours to go to Bali. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope to catch you on the next episode. Hey, entrepreneurs and experts, I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you learned at least one new big idea that helps you evolve your skills and gets you closer to monetizing your expertise and creating that successful knowledge business. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and Stitcher, and check out myepodcast.com for all episodes as well as the tips and tricks mentioned in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.